Imagine this: the copper roofs of Buckingham glinting under a late June sun, the air thick with the hush that always precedes trooping the color. Scarlet tunics line the mall, brass fanfares slice the morning, and a million eyes crane skyward to spot the RAF fly past. In that split second, just as the red arrows roar overhead trailing plumes of blue-white-red, every camera zooms in on the palace balcony. There, wedged between his impeccably poised brother and sister, stands the youngest Wales child. Prince Louis is only 7, yet the twinkle in his eyes could power a fleet of double-decker buses. He waves so enthusiastically that his aiguillette nearly slips from his miniature shoulder. Most viewers think they are witnessing a simple family tableau, one cheery wave from the monarchy's resident scene stealer. In reality, they are seeing the opening move in a palace chess match years in the making. Because hours after that balcony smile, the court circular posted a deceptively terse bulletin. His Majesty has been pleased to bestow upon Her Royal Highness Prince Louis Arthur Charles of Wales the ancient title of Earl of Kenmare. 2 sentences. 31 words. But inside the gilded corridors of royal power those words landed like a thunderclap. A title with gunpowder packed inside. Kenmare is no trinket dredged from some dusty peerage roll. It's a banner that once belonged to a 19th century warrior prince, an earldom steeped in naval victories, parliamentary clout, and a legendary connection to Ireland. Traditionally it's been reserved for adults spare, heirs deemed ready to shoulder regional patronage and military appointments. To pin that coronet on a child still perfecting his long division. Unprecedented. Unprecedented, yet calculated. Those in the know had seen the pieces sliding into place for months. Kensington aides whispered of secret briefings with heralds. Communications staff rehearsed carefully neutral language. Charles's private secretary drafted half a dozen versions of the warrant to make sure no legal tripwire remained. All hushed, all hidden, until the announcement detonated. Camilla's hope, and the shattering sound of its fall. No one felt the blast more viscerally than Queen Camilla. 4 years she'd walked an impossible tightrope. Accepted publicly, tolerated privately, but never fully woven into the dynastic loom. She knew the Wales children would always outrank her Parker Bowles grandchildren, yet she longed for a sliver of official grace, a minor barony, a ceremonial ribbon, anything that would tell the world her bloodline had, at last, been folded into Windsor steel. Behind closed doors, Camilla had lobbied Charles to refresh the family tree, to sprinkle a gesture in her grandson Freddie's direction. Nothing grand, perhaps the newly revived title of Viscount Marshwood, maybe a courtesy spot on the remembrance balcony. Each time, the king wavered, then William's frost-rimmed silence settled the matter. No dilution of the direct line. Not now, not ever. Still, Camilla kept faith. Until Prince Louis, darling Louis, whose ink blots are barely dry on his spelling tests, suddenly leapt over her grandson and seized a coronet forged in empire. Every unspoken hope she'd nurtured shattered in that instant. The Queen Consort's meltdown, 10:47 a.m. Witnesses remember a faint clink of china in the garden room of Clarence House, followed by a sound few staff had ever heard from Her Majesty, a ragged, guttural gasp. A silver teacup rattled off its saucer. According to a footman stationed in the corridor, Camilla's voice spiraled from disbelief to fury in under 60 seconds. His 7. And my own flesh and blood is invisible. Do they think I'm merely a decorative coat of arms? At 10:49, she demanded an urgent audience with Charles. At 10:55, doors slammed. What transpired inside remains the stuff of palace lore. Some claim she threatened to scale back engagements, others insist tears outnumbered accusations. But one sentiment rang clear through oak panels and damask drapes. Diana still rules this house from the grave, and Catherine's her instrument. William and Catherine, the strategists in cashmere gloves. While Camilla unraveled, the Prince and Princess of Wales glided through a children's hospice fete in Richmond, handing out sunflower seeds and discussing Lego therapy. Not once did Catherine let the new title cross her lips. She didn't need to. Silence is her sharpest blade. Those who downplay the princess often mistake calm for passivity. In truth, Kate charts her moves with military-grade patience. She knew Louis possessed something priceless to a dynasty desperate for relevance, authentic charm wrapped in unfiltered joy. By elevating him early, she inoculated the crown against charges of ossification and signaled that Diana's empathetic legacy would define the coming reign. William, for his part, viewed the move through a different lens. For him, the memory of watching his mother cry behind Kensington Palace curtains remains evergreen. He vowed his children would never be jockeyed into emotional harm by internal court rivalries. A bold title for Louis was more than symbolism. It was a fortress, brickwork against any future attempt to sideline or overshadow. The king caught in the crossfire. Charles never intended to spark a household war. Yet advisors say he sensed an ugly dichotomy: deny his son's request and risk a generational schism, or grant it and fracture marital peace. The crown, by definition, favors the line of succession. The moment Louis's name appeared on the warrant, the die was cast. In private he worries about legacy. At 76, after a lifetime waiting, he faces not only Republican mutterings, but an internal tug-of-war between the woman who rescued him from loneliness and the son who embodies the throne's future. Balance, once his hallmark, now feels like standing on a needlepoint pin. Fallout across the palace map. The Kenmare decree touched off micro-earthquakes everywhere. Household staff started redrafting the order of precedence, place cards, processional routes, Christmas Eve seating. Press secretaries braced for another children weaponized headline in the tabloids. Foreign missions discreetly asked whether little Louis would now take precedence at forthcoming Commonwealth tours. Camilla's siblings considered going quiet on social media to avoid feeding the beast. And in the nursery corridors of Adelaide Cottage, Prince Louis reportedly asked his nanny, "Does an earl still get pudding?" The answer, yes, but only after handwriting thank you notes for the 400 congratulatory letters already piling up. The bigger canvas. Step back and the episode frames a monarchy at a hinge point. One queen consort bereft that her lineage may never pierce the royal armor, one young princess of Wales shaping the crown's narrative through deft, almost surgical PR, a monarch balancing filial love and spousal debt. Heirloom titles repurposed to court a TikTok generation that measures authenticity in unscripted giggles. Is it petty pageantry or evolutionary genius? Possibly both. Either way, the public responded. Kenmare-themed coloring books sold out online. Little Earl trended beside Wimbledon scores, and pollsters recorded a 9-point jump in royals seem modern and relatable. Where this leaves the players. Camilla has retreated to Raymil House for quiet reflection, bringing only a skeleton staff and her Jack Russell rescues. Whether she returns with renewed grace or sharper claws will shape court dynamics for years. Charles plans a solo visit to a veterans' hospital in Newcastle next week. Optics, say aides, of a king above family feuds. William and Catherine, outwardly unruffled, will host a mental health roundtable in Manchester, bringing all 3 children. If reporters shout questions about Kenmare, expect the same serene smile Catherine wore when Meghan's Oprah interview first aired, inscrutable, unbreakable. Prince Louis. He's practicing how to balance a coronet on a teddy bear while plotting his next balcony wave. Why it matters beyond the palace gates. For watchers over 55, the saga hits deep chords. Sibling rivalries, blended family friction, the ache of seeing history repeat. You remember Diana's tears, the 3 in this marriage bombshell, Camilla's slow climb from pariah to consort. This latest twist confirms that monarchy, for all its tiaras, still bleeds with human drama. So where do you stand? Is the Kenmare move savvy renewal or needless provocation? Should step-families receive titles, or does bloodline remain the bedrock of an ancient institution? Scroll down and tell us, respectfully, because your lived wisdom enriches this conversation far more than any palace communique. If you believe power's true test is how gently it treats the generation yet to understand it, hit like. If you want every behind-the-veil moment of this regal chess game, subscribe and ring that bell. The palace curtains have opened, the next act is about to begin, and every earl, queen, and wounded heart is on stage.